as you're ready, count you down. 3 seconds and then we'll go live. Wait for me to give you the signal. Start. Come on. Looking in the lenses.
She's going to stay down there? What's going on, Louise? Okay, are we set? Thank you. Meyuyam. Meyuyam. Palovachamkai. Palovachamkai Pechangayam. We're gathered here today to give you a short briefing on things that have transpired with COVID-19, coronavirus, over the last week and a day. The Tribal Council began addressing the COVID-19 pandemic in earnest on March 11th and set up a meeting with tribal leadership, the PDC, the Gaming Commission, and key operating staff from the PRNC to address potential changes that were going to be made over at the Pechanga Resort and Casino. Remember, this is last week. With the governor's declaration of an emergency on March 4th, earlier this month, the Pechanga Resort and Casino had already begun to report a decrease in foot traffic through the door at about 10% reduction. And also it was reported to us that there had already been an overall declining in revenue as a result. On March 12th, the Tribal Council met with PRC leadership, again, including PDC, of course, and the Gaming Commission, early on March 12th that day to assess the situation and receive a full briefing. Leadership provided information on initiating aggressive and stepped-up cleaning practices, which included the hiring of a cleaning crew with Pechanga Cares on the back of their T-shirts. And this would enhance confidence in our cleaning efforts. It would show that more bodies were on the floor, cleaning more often. The PRNC team leadership provided specific steps on what they were doing, steps they were taking to prevent or help prevent the spread, and keeping the Pechanga Resort and Casino clean. Also, and it was emphasized in this meeting that we needed to prioritize the goal of keeping the resort clean, but keeping our team members, all our employees, and everybody that steps in there healthy and safe. At the conclusion of that meeting, the Tribal Council met separately and engaged 3 documents. One was a plan that we've had as a Tribal Council since 2011, which is called the Pechanga, this is a short version, the Pechanga Epidemic/Pandemic Flu Plan of 2011. The Council voted to activate that plan. The Council also updated a document called its Emergency Operations Plan and another document called the COOP, the Continuity of Operations Plan. Together, these 3 documents interface with the existing Tribal TERC, Tribal Emergency Response Commission, which is set up to respond to various emergencies and disasters on the reservation, like floods and earthquakes and fires. Also that same day, the Tribal Council authorized the cancellation of all non-essential travel for all elected officials and employees at the Tribal Government Center. The Tribal Council also discussed closing the school, Chamakilawish School, in order to protect the children. But during that conversation, the Tribal Council agreed that closing the school was premature on that day, in that moment. The discussion that took place did transpire with the school principal. At that same meeting, though, and unknown to us at the time, wait a minute. At that same meeting, due to all the unknowns in our environment around us, the Tribal Council did decide to suspend rolling out the new secured loan program until some future date. And that new loan program was voted on at the general membership meeting that took place in February. The TANF also had a sponsored college tour, which is in the works, and that was being set up to go to, I think, a university in Arizona. That was canceled, as well as we took a look at sick time and attendance policies at tribal government. All these were amended to allow employees to stay home if they were exhibiting cold or flu-like symptoms. External to Pechanga, on the state level, Governor Newsom, the governor of the state of California, issued an updated policy that mass gatherings should be rescheduled or canceled if they had 250 or more in attendance. Smaller gatherings could proceed if organizers implemented a 6 feet social distancing practice and policy. After that announcement, all PRNC concerts through the end of March were canceled. During the tribal leadership meeting, a fair amount of time was spent discussing cancellation of concerts and contracts with the performers. There were contractual issues that were even discussed. Now remember, this was a week ago, and going into last weekend, there were 2 concerts, actually 3 concerts that were slated to be had at the Pechanga Resort and Casino. Pitbull, I think, was going to be on Sunday along with Chicago. And then I think the evening before, was it Anna Gabriel was slated to perform? So there was some flux, there was some issue of, whether we could legally do this and in the environment that we were in, and it now seems so far or so long ago, but just to show you how quickly things have moved. On March 13th, which I now believe was Friday, the Tribal Council decided to suspend all events in Tribal Council facilities until the end of March. The Council also approved a declaration, the issuance through an executive order, a declaration of public health emergency that would have a recorded date, a decision date of the 13th of March. In any case that federal funding became available to reimburse interruptions of business and other activities that are associated with this COVID-19 pandemic crisis. In an effort to keep the membership up to date on the actions taken to that point, the Tribal Council, through much deliberation, decided to go ahead and notice and set an emergency meeting date for the general membership to provide an update on everything that had happened, because things had happened so quickly. During that Tribal Council meeting on the 13th of March, we got word, in real time while we were meeting, that the Temecula Valley Unified School District had sent out a notice to their schools that all schools in the district, and in fact, turned out all schools in the county, were ordered to close beginning Monday, March 16th, in order to prevent the spread of the virus. The Tribal Council met with the principal again and conferred with the school board that it was time to close Chamaquilawish as well. I'll mention that it is the policy of Chamaquilawish School to mirror the calendar and schedule that the local school district, Temecula Valley Unified School District, has in place. So the closure that would take place with our school would take place until the conclusion of spring break on April 5th. And then classes would resume on April 6th. Chamaquilawish and TVUSD thereafter announced that their schools would be closed through April 30th. On March 14th, Saturday, there was another round of meetings. Now, first of all, as a sovereign tribal nation, a federally recognized tribe, it's important that you realize that we do exercise independent decision-making. But we are doing so through this COVID-19 pandemic, taking into account a lot of the policies and measures that other governments, including the state government, but also federal government and local county health, are putting out there, because they do represent to us the best attempts at trying to create a safe public health environment for our tribal membership, our families, and everybody that comes into contact with us. So on March 14th, on Saturday, the Tribal Council, the PDC, and the Gaming Commission met together by phone to receive an update on 2 items. We were notified by PDC first that first of all, externally, the entertainment venues were closing. So much was in flux. We had already seen the closures or the stoppage of the NBA and other sports leagues. MLB canceled, Major League Baseball canceled spring training and the opening of the regular season. Hockey League followed suit. So a lot of sporting activities were already stopping. We were beginning to get word that some other tribal casinos were beginning to discuss possible temporary closures, and we had seen in news reports that some of the non-gaming gambling establishments in the state of California were maybe entertaining doing something similar. So the first entertainment venues that were closing upon request from Governor Newsom, on recommendations from Governor Newsom, for bars and other establishments that gathered people, and card clubs followed suit. There was a growing concern that regarding exposure to team members, that as long as we were open, our patrons and our team members are exposed to an ongoing and very dynamic, fluid situation with the public. So it was then reported on that day, on Saturday, March 4th, that we had a hotel patron who had spent the night there at the casino and was chatting with an employee on the way out, that he had been there overnight as a matter of self-quarantining, that he had been a cruise ship passenger who had come from Hawaii, which had no known reported incidents, COVID-19 incidents at that time. And as he was checking out, he said he was going to be checking in other hotels because he said he was sick. This information was met with a good deal of consternation, and it added another level of concern, and it was another dynamic that was layered on top of things that had been fast developing over that 24-hour period. So this situation underscored a wider concern that we all had, that the virus could already be in our valley, and that all people needed to engage in social distancing practices. There were no confirmed cases of patron or employees being sick or being suspected of having the COVID-19 virus. However, due to the lack of testing and the pervasiveness of the virus throughout the region, the information that we did receive about the patron was regarded as critical and was not dismissed. So at that point, the council, together with the PDC, the PDC informed us of all these circumstances, operational and otherwise, and looked to the council for some decision-making authority. And the council subsequently determined that the Pechanga Resort and Casino would need to temporarily close in order to safeguard our people, our patrons, our employees in the community. And this was on Saturday. PDC offered that a crew would remain on site to deep clean and sanitize the entire floor and hotel rooms, and that DPS would remain on premises to secure the property, and that these measures would be in place through the end of the month. The time period for consideration on that day, March 14th, Saturday, was through the end of the month. All calculations and projections that were made and representations that were made were through the end of the month. Everybody was internally, externally, through California we're talking about a temporary closure period. I think the theme parks came on board that weekend as well, Disneyland, Knott's Berry Farm, and others, Legoland, with a 2-week closure or a closure through the end of the month. On March 15th, to once again demonstrate how rapidly information and circumstances were changing, this was Sunday afternoon, the Tribal Council went ahead and called a special emergency meeting for a single subject matter to meet with the membership to address the situation. We weighed the possibility of having that meeting on a Sunday, following Sunday, to give better notice. We also weighed the possibility of scheduling it midweek so that we could give the information sooner rather than later. During that meeting, actually, the CDC, Centers for Disease Control, sent out a policy suspending mass gatherings of 50 people or more for 8 weeks that day. And so in light of all that information, and to keep all tribal members safe from inadvertent exposure and coming into contact, and to continue practicing what we were preaching already, practicing social distancing, the Tribal Council subsequently elected to cancel that meeting. As a response over the last few days, the Tribal Council, PDC Board, and Gaming Commission have been working tirelessly to ensure that the assets of the band are protected and that clear protocols have been initiated and executed. On the tribal government side, all government projects and capital expenditures and equipment purchases have been suspended, unless they were funded prior to March 2020. There are 3 projects that will continue at this point. The Little Pechanga entry gate, which I think involves a motor, will be fixed appropriately. The modification of the dumpster area will be completed, and a signal light project involving the new clinic right off of Paula Road, Pechanga Parkway, Paula Road. That signal light project will be will continue, and it also utilizes transportation grant funds. To maximize social distancing, the council continued to take further actions. The council initiated action to close the recreation center. It's now closed completely. The Silver Feathers building was also directed to close as well. Government employees, our tribal government employees, are being set up to work remotely if that is feasible and necessary, and all staffing issues are being considered right now. Finally and importantly, there are no gaming revenues at this point in time being generated, compact revenues to the state are suspended. Our compact, we have suspended that, I should say. That's a decision we made to not send any more compact payments to the state during the time of this shutdown. Now, just last night, Governor Newsom here in California issued a stay-at-home order for Californians. And many of you may actually be living in a place where a shelter-in-place order is also being executed. Certainly the 6-county area in the Bay Area, Northern California, Orange County, and the Coachella Valley at this time are places where shelter-in-place is in effect. We recommend then that you continue to do so, shelter in place, and minimize your contact and increase and maximize your social distancing to be vigilant and to help do your part to prevent the spread of the virus. Pechanga's tribal leadership is working together in a cohesive manner, and we are dealing with this crisis as efficiently and as expeditiously as we can. There are lots of moving parts to how things run on a day-to-day basis here at Pechanga, and each one of those things is diligently being addressed. The circumstances sometimes seem to change hour by hour, and we will decide actions and inform membership of these things as soon as possible. We will do the best that we can to protect the tribe and all tribal assets, our tribal community, and of course, most importantly, our people during these unprecedented times. We will upload all documents that I've mentioned in this briefing to the tribal member website, including all the Pechanga documents and other tribal declarations. If you need to update your email address or access to the tribal member website, please contact our tribal secretary, Louise Burke. In fact, our tribal member website, all the information that was up there previously is being cleared out or has been cleared out. And we're going to use the tribal member website portal just for COVID-19 information to tribal members. I think, I'm looking at Brad right now, I think we're going to try to put a copy of this briefing online as well, so it can be referenced by folks that weren't able to see it in real time or didn't have a device or a signal at the time that this live stream went forward. We are discussing the likelihood of doing further briefings in this live stream format. So those of you who can get information and want to get information in real time will be able to do so. We are also looking to engage a Q&A interactive feature in a future webcast. And so look for that to come from our tribal secretary. In the meantime, at this briefing, we are not going to be taking questions, but we are anticipating some questions that have already been asked and that you have sent. So we encourage you to continue to send questions to us. You can contact any member of the Tribal Council or a Tribal Secretary, and she has quite an inventory of a notebook of questions that are being asked and that you would like an answer for. So a subsequent briefing will address those. I do want to address one question that several of you have asked and was one of the reasons why we wanted to schedule an emergency meeting. Some folks had questioned under what authorization did the Tribal Council have or believe it had when it went ahead to close the casino or variations of that. We want to assure the tribal membership that that authorization we believe is clearly stated in very broad terms in our constitution and bylaws. We have a mandate in there as your tribal council to act in the best interest of the band and individual tribal members. And we believe that the action and the timing of the closure of our gaming facility, such as it was and when we did it, was exactly doing that in the best interest of the band, and that it was really a clear decision that needed to be made at that time. So that's the short answer to the question of authorization. Also, subsequent to this briefing, our fire department, together with our tribal council, we've been working on a notification app called Everbridge. Look for us to send information out to you on Everbridge. It's an app that you download, and it is about ready to be put into use. And for you, it'll allow you to receive notifications that we push out through tribal government, and goes to our Turk and information that involves COVID-19 as well. It's just another source to be able to receive important and timely information. So there's a number of places that you can continue to do that. Our tribal member website is another one, of course. And I think other things we're looking at as well is if we need to somehow, as COVID-19 continues to unfold, one of the unknowns is how long will we be in this mode? And the answer is we really don't know. We look to the dates that the schools are closed through April 30th. That's one indicator. We hear 8 weeks from CDC folks and the administration. People seem to be pushing out the timeline for how long this will be. So we need to be flexible. We need people to individually practice social distancing. But if there's a need to be more interactive, I mean, we want to engage other methods, like maybe a large conference call with you. And like I said, an interactive version of this kind of briefing that may be live, but also have question and answer format. So this at this point in time concludes the briefing. I want to thank Brad Manoa from our PRNC Creative Studios and his crew for being here and setting up the equipment for us to be able to do this and get this information out to you. We don't know when the next briefing will be. It could be in the next day or two, and it could be early next week as circumstances warrant. However, continue to monitor because there's still a lot of stuff that is being discussed, and when we have information that is ready to put out to you, we want to get it out to you as quickly as possible. So be nimble and be ready. Okay, we'll get through this together as Pechanga people, and we wish you all the best. Take it easy. Love.